For the record, I want to acknowledge Chairman Rodriguez, who is an honorable member. Alderperson Fuentes, can you go ahead? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Well, first, I want to thank every young person that came to this hearing today. So can we please give the young people a round of applause? And to all of our educators and school leaders and district leaders, I want to thank you for organizing for today. It was a very short turnaround, and your ability to fill a room, I am always in awe and impressed. For the young people in the room, my name is Jesse Fuentes, and I am the alderperson of the 26th Ward. And I am a proud graduate of Alternative Schools Network and Youth Connection Charter Schools. I am a graduate of a YCCS school called Dr. Pedro Albizu Campos Puerto Rican High School in Humboldt Park, a school after graduating that I had the privilege to return to as the Dean of Student Affairs, now led by the great giant Dr. Melissa Lewis. I was 16 years old when I was expelled from Carl Schurz High School for getting into a school fight with a peer who called my mom a crackhead, poking fun at her addiction. The addiction I had to suffer with for most of my childhood. I also had a father to spend an overwhelming majority of my life in and out of prison. Going to school wasn't fun. Being a learner wasn't exciting. And going into an academic institution in which I was constantly criminalized for my zip code and the color of my skin made it all the more daunting to want to even graduate. It wasn't until I walked into a YCCS school that had no metal detectors, had no armed police officers. It had a mentor at the door. His name was Carlos Contreras. And the first thing that he told me was, when you walk through these doors, you are going to be treated like the full human being that you are. And you will always be welcomed here. And it was for the first time that I felt excited to learn. It was at that school I learned about my Puerto Ricanness, where I learned how to take care of myself and grapple with the historical and generational trauma of my family, where I learned how to be a restorative justice practitioner and be a peace circle leader, where I learned how to stop violence in our communities and intervene in gang tension, where I learned the importance of building a community. Often success is defined by graduating from school and leaving the place that you were born and grew up in. Albizu Campos taught me you go back and you transform that community for future generations to come. It is because of a place like Albizu Campos I became politicized enough to have the courage to run for office. I am probably the first and the only graduate of YCCS to be elected to city council. But that possibility was given to me by that unique space. You see, Alternative Schools Network and YCCS married in their vision to support young people that have often been pushed out or dropped out of traditional spaces has been a legacy of over 50 years of saving young people. What we are talking about today is not a charter system that seeks to compete with Chicago public schools and take students that are succeeding in those places, but rather to educate, to wrap around, and to love on the students that did not reap the benefits of our traditional schools in the city of Chicago. You see, schools like Albizu, CCA, Association House, Olive Harvey, Innovations are all schools that look at a young person like me and see everything that's right with them and not the things that are wrong with them. We have too many systems in the city of Chicago that continue to discuss, poke, and exacerbate the limitations of young people in the city of Chicago rather than celebrating all that they have to offer. Today, we're going to learn about all of the great things that both Youth Connection Charter Schools and Alternative Schools Network have to offer. But we're also going to talk about the reality. How many young people are out of school today? How many young people didn't return after COVID? Better yet, how many young people didn't return after school closures? How many young people are left unemployed? How does that impact the community safety in the city of Chicago? And what role does YCCS and ASN have to play in assisting us in building a better and safer Chicago? So I want to thank Jack Weiss, Executive Director of Alternative Schools Network, and Sheila Benson, who heads YCCS, for their vision, their hard work, and today their expertise and their testimony. Thank you all for being here today.